part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
That sound means it's time for Cavs on the Break NBA podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. I'm your host, Chase Smith, and with me is an NBA writer for hoopswire.com. He's our Cavs insider, national NBA writer, Sam Amico. Sam, this is season 4. Me and you, Cavs on the Break. Let's do it, man. What do you say?
It's hard. It feels like 20. No, I'm very excited. More excited than I've been in any season that didn't have LeBron James on the team.
Very, very true. Also with us, he's a co-host of Cavs on the Break. You can find him on doing sports at Fox 8. He's the co-host of Sable Brothers on the Baseline right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. John Sable. John, what's up, my man?
What's good, guys? Good to be back. Good to have this season get underway. This is going to be a fun one.
You know, we were talking pre-show, and I have to mention this, John. Sam and I were reminiscing about the wonderful 4 years. You shared that you remember listening to this podcast while you lived in Tampa. So listen, dreams do come true. You're here. Man. You're hosting with us on Cavs on the Break.
Yeah, it's season number 2 with you guys here.
Yes.
And, as Kevin Garnett said after that, the Celtics championship many years ago, anything is possible, baby.
That's right. And hey, shouts to Zach for checking this pod out. We really appreciate it. Well, listen, fellas, the NBA is back. Tonight is opening night. For listening to this on Wednesday, it started yesterday. This is a Cavs season preview podcast. I just have to ask, Sam, I'll start with you. What have you done spending all your free time on without NBA? Like, what have you been filling your day with without the NBA?
Well, since I run an NBA website, I spend most of my time trying to find NBA stories, which, during the NFL just starting and baseball playoffs is a little tough to do. But thankfully, it should be a lot easier now. And, the nice thing is I do kind of wrap it up by 5 o'clock and, hang out with the kids and all that good stuff.
All that good stuff. John, what about you with all of your free time, man? What have you been doing? You haven't been doing much. I mean, I just feel like just living it easy, man. Not a lot going on.
Yeah, pretty boring here in Cleveland, in the Cleveland sports scene. Let me tell you, if it's not the Browns self-destructing, it's that Guardians team, man. That just kind of shocked the world for a lot of the regular season, the month of September, and then into the postseason. And as we record this tonight, they lost Game 5 of the ALDS in New York. But I mean, it's been real crazy. Balancing, covering both the Browns and the Guardians is for Fox 8, as well as working high school football Fridays, Friday Night Touchdown on Fox 8.
John told me he's worked 12 straight days.
Mm-hmm.
And
12, yesterday was day number 12. It was my first day off in 2 weeks. That also corresponded with, I told this to you guys before when we hung out at Cavs Media Day a few weeks ago, I went to Virginia for 3 days to go to a school down there that has the original Richfield Coliseum Cavaliers basketball court. I'll be doing a story on that for Fox 8 coming up here in a few weeks in November. So that was kind of cool for a little work trip and to go see that.
I feel like that episode of Sable Brothers that has some legs like that. That's really, I feel like, is one of your most talked about pieces.
It was, yeah, absolutely. And you know what, that episode, which was coming on a year now, we did that almost like it was right around Christmas time last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I pitched it at Fox 8. They loved it. Reached back out to the school. George McNair, who's the varsity basketball coach and guidance counselor down there, loved it. So we went down there, and he was a teenager at the time when they purchased the Coliseum, and they came up, or purchased the floor from the Coliseum, and they came up to Richfield for that. There's a story beyond the story. Shameless plug here in that podcast if you want to check it out.
Mm-hmm.
But the visual elements of it will be showing on Fox 8. And of course, once it airs, I'll be tweeting it. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of cool stuff there. Sam, I know you'll love that.
Yeah, you know what I thought was cool from the video you showed me and Chase was the fact that they have the floor that says Cavs all over it, and their nickname is the Warriors.
Yes, it's funny. The real quick story, guys, is the floor is exactly the same as the floor it was in the Coliseum, with the two blue circles where it says Cavs and Coliseum at center court. There were two courts they had, one in the practice facility or practice gym that was in the Coliseum, and then the playing surface. And the only thing they touched on that floor and changed was they had to stripe out and paint out the volleyball court on that floor because they needed it. And it is funny that they're called the Warriors. They're the Cavs court is there. Right. So much so, guys, that they changed their colors from royal blue and white or navy blue and white to royal blue and orange to match the floor.
Very cool.
Yet they're so called the Warriors. It's pretty cool.
Very cool. Well, I haven't been doing much. I've just been bored out of my mind. Don't follow the Browns. I dyed my hair blonde and got my ears pierced just throughout the NBA offseason. So I cannot wait for NBA basketball to return. We did get to hang out at Media Day. That was so much fun. Sam, what were some of your takeaways from Media Day? Let's kind of touch on that just a bit, and then we'll talk about Cavs over-unders, where they rank now and all that stuff. But Media Day was an incredible experience. Sam, what was one of your takeaways from Media Day?
Well, one of my takeaways was you asked some questions and nobody yelled at you when they answered.
Rubio was close. Rubio was close.
Yeah.
I didn't get the Kevin Love treatment.
Right. Yeah. I think that the one big thing was it was pretty evident that they were the players and the staff and everybody was pretty excited to be back. That hasn't always been the case. A lot of times you go to Media Day and you kind of get a vibe that the players, not the coaches so much, but the players are kind of like, wow, we're back already. It's a really short off. All they talk about is how short the off season was, and but this time there was really an air of excitement from the players. Obviously, JB Bickerstaff and Kobe Altman, but also the guys themselves, which you don't see a ton. They were raring to go.
Yeah, John, it was great to hang out with you and I got to meet your brother for the first time there as well.
Yeah.
What was some of your takeaways from Media Day?
Well, to echo Sam's point, the excitement there is unreal. I mean, they are on cloud 9 right now. It's almost as if they won the championship. That's how excited they seem to be. I mean, the whole Donovan Mitchell thing has just catapulted this team to a whole new level, and just contagious. Everyone seems to be happy and excited. Darius Garland, everyone was smiling. Evan Mobley. I mean, there is a chemistry already built on this team, it seems like. And I think one other big takeaway to me, talk individual players, 3 guys visually looked different. Mm-hmm. Evan Mobley looked bigger. Garland looked bigger. Isaac Okoro looked bigger. And he told me when my brother and I were interviewing for our Cavs pod on Sable Brothers on the baseline, he added 10 pounds of muscle and changed his workout, changed his off-season regimen, and changed he reinvented his shot basically. And, he's going to be relied on to be that kind of stretch wing player that they kind of need, as well as that defensive player that can really help on both ends. So we'll see if that pans out, but I think those 3 guys really looked visually a little bit different in a good way, obviously.
Yeah, John, those are my takeaways. The team chemistry that they had was abundantly clear, and it was almost contagious in the arena. Like their good vibes, their energy, their chemistry really just kind of made everyone else kind of relax a little bit. It was a calming, exciting presence that you guys talked about, and then also the visual change in Garland and these players who have put in work. It was cool to see. Donovan Mitchell's a star. He carried himself like a star, and he looks like a star. And Garland and Mobley still look like they're growing into that. Mitchell is fully realized, as he should, as we all know he is. But to me, it was clear on Media Day, he's a star. And these young guns who are going to be or could be, are going to step into that very soon. But it did feel like Mitchell was kind of in a league of his own in that moment. Sam,
established when it comes to being a star. He's three-time All-Star. Obviously new to Garland and Allen last season. But I'll tell you this, and I wrote this in in my column that I published tonight, was as excited as you are about Mitchell, and you meaning Cavs fans, I think that there's a lot of reason to be really, really excited about Garland as well, because he's really, really steady, confident, playing easy and free. Seems to have a whole new approach to the way he plays the game since last season. Just a lot of confidence, very cohesive with his teammates, and I just think the sky's the limit for him. He's really ascending, and I just think that now that he has somebody in Mitchell who will take some of this pressure off of him, I think Garland's going to be even better this year.
So, yeah, and you know what, guys? Real quick, to echo Sam's point, Chase, you didn't get that with Colin Sexton. Let me just say that right now.
Agreed.
Right. So we covered in our last pod the Donovan Mitchell trade, all of the Cavs offseason moves. They've been talked about ad nauseum. So I want to ask this, going into the season, John, where do the Cavs rank? I want to hear it. Where do you rank the Cavs right now going into the season?
Well, I think we were all kind of on cloud nine. I think I was probably the only one out of us four, including Jeremy, that picked the Cavs on that night to go deep, be a Eastern Conference Finals team, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think I was the only one that held back and didn't go that far.
Yes, I think you're right.
You surprised me on that, by the way. But I think they're, as they sit right now, you've got Philly, you've got Boston and Milwaukee ahead of them. Then you've got Miami, and then you've got Cleveland. So I think you could argue that they could be a 4 or 5 team there.
You think they're better than the Nets?
And then you got the Nets. So here's the question, though. On paper, no, but
I disagree with that.
Is Kyrie gonna be with it to contribute? I don't
disagree with that. I think on paper they are better than the Nets.
I mean, it's tough to think you can't ever count on KD, right? You can't. But are they better than Miami right now? If they're better than Miami, then that's 5. Then if you put the Nets 4.
I think Sam's smiling. People in the podcast world can't see. Sam has a really big smile on his face. He looks like the Joker right now.
Well, I'll tell you. I'll say this. They could be better than Miami, I think. I certainly think they could be better than the Nets, because the Nets have a tendency to self-destruct, as we've seen.
I just don't think the Nets are very deep. They don't have a lot of depth.
Although they added some depth. If TJ Warren gets healthy, Royce O'Neal's a nice player. Joe Harris is back, or will be back here within the week, and Seth Curry's not a bad player. They've got some decent talent. There's no question. You've got your big 3.
But who's the third in Brooklyn?
Simmons. Ben Simmons.
Oh yeah.
And,
but are we like assuming that Simmons and Kyrie are going to be 100% mentally involved?
No, because we can't assume that. But I'm saying if they are, it can be a problem.
Well, let's go here. Do all 3 of us agree that the Bucks and the Sixers are in a tier above everyone else in the East?
Yeah, and I'd say the Celtics too. Probably.
I didn't mean to say that. Oh, I didn't mean to say that. Because I think the Celtics are a cluster. I think if they hadn't have had like all of the drama this offseason, I think you could make that argument. But I want to see them play. I want to see what this team is going to look like before I put them in that top tier. I think they could.
Put it this way. I think that the Cavs are destined for a 4 or 5 seed. I really do. And I think that it's not outside the realm of possibility that they finish in the top 3 as probably a 3rd. But, and I think Kobe Altman, we heard him on media day, he wanted to temper things a little bit and say, look, we're setting ourselves up for the future. If we're looking at everything as it has to happen this year, we're probably going to be disappointed. This is the president of basketball operations saying that. because you look,
He has to
Chase,
say
throughout
that.
the course of history in the NBA, veteran, older teams tend to get it done in the playoffs. Younger teams
Yeah.
that haven't been to the playoffs before tend not to. Now, a
But
couple years ago, the Atlanta Hawks were a young team that did get it done. So it's not impossible.
but there is a trend, Sam and John, that if a team has a transcendent talent, they always make it far before they really should. Right?
I would agree with that, but I mean,
You look back at the Thunder team, the Bronze stint against the Spurs, and that's just recent off the top of my head without going too far back, right?
Yeah.
All these super duper stars, they do have this like early, no one saw us coming run. And why could that be the Cavs this year?
No, and you know what,
Chase,
Mobley is the player that he is.
I'm not going to argue that it could be, but I put and I'm not trying to downplay what they've done this offseason, but I just think that you have to look at it from a historical perspective, which is kind of teams that have been there, the Milwaukees, the Philadelphias, the Bostons, even the Miamis, who were in the finals a couple years ago or a few years ago now. Those teams have all been kind of through these battles in the playoffs. They're not going to be, they're not going to feel any kind of pressure. And maybe that'll benefit them, maybe it won't. But I certainly think that the Cavs have the talent to, we have to look beyond this year and say, okay, if they finish fifth and lose in the first round of playoffs, that's not a disappointing season. Disappointing season is if they're 3 years from now still losing in the first round.
Well, and Sam, you bring up a great point of what Kobe said on media day when we were there. He's not putting a limit on the success this season.
Right.
He's not adding any of that pressure because he's smart enough to know that they don't have that playoff experience yet, with the exception of Kevin Love and Donovan Mitchell and Ricky Rubio.
They don't even have a first round series. Don't
exactly.
forget that. They haven't even been in the playoffs yet. It's a different game in the playoffs. It really is. It's more physical. You get less calls. It's just
the trade for Donovan Mitchell changes all of that.
I don't know that it changes all of it. You have one guy now who really has that experience, and you have
one guy with no other questions on the roster. Like this is it.
Chase, okay, where do you predict them? Because I am not saying they're getting to the East Finals. I don't think they are.
I don't think so either.
I think they're the 3 or 4 seed, and I think they're going to be playing for the Eastern Conference Finals.
Okay.
I think anything less than second round is a failure.
It's not a failure. They're not.
I think
no one else projects them to do that. They're projected to maybe win a first round series. I think if they win a first round series, that's a huge success after not even tasting the playoffs without LeBron in however many years.
Sam, couldn't agree more with you on that. Couldn't agree more. Because think about this, guys.
I think if you look, okay, yes, they added Donovan Mitchell. Bucks still have Giannis Antetokounmpo.
True.
They still have Middleton. They still have a very experienced veteran team.
Yes.
The 76ers still have Joel Embiid.
Yes.
And they were a big problem for us last year.
Yeah.
I think that the Cavs have the potential to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, but it's going to have to be a run like the Hawks had a couple years ago, which is, to me, unexpected. I don't think the Cavs are thinking if we don't get to the Eastern Conference Finals, it's a failure. I think they think, let's get in the playoffs, let's try to win a series, but more importantly, let's get into the playoffs. That's their first goal.
If they don't make it out of the first round of the playoffs, this season is a letdown.
I disagree.
I would disagree.
I think if you lose if you get the 5th seed and the Milwaukee Bucks or the 4th seed, you lose to a team that probably would have gotten back to the finals last year if Middleton didn't get hurt. That's not a huge failure. If you lose to Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and Ben Simmons, and they have their act together in the first round, that's not a failure. And same thing with Embiid and Harden and Tobias Harris. If you lose that Sixers team, to me, I wouldn't expect to beat them with a team that's never been to the playoffs compared to a team that is older and has a lot of talent and has been in those situations before. Now, if they get into the first round of playoffs and say lose the Chicago Bulls or the Atlanta Hawks, then yeah, you're probably a little bit disappointed.
So I'm just going to push back one more time because we're arguing now about the
John, I'm
success
going to
of
leave
the
it up
Cavs.
to you this time, John, to fight Chase.
So you're okay. You're okay with giving Garland this huge extension, giving him the keys to the franchise. Hey, take the whole team down to your neck of the woods, take him to dinner, like do all these offseason workouts on you, and you're okay with them getting work by a bunch of geezers from Brooklyn.
They're first of all, okay. Yeah, number one, to answer your question, yes, I'd be okay with that because the Garland extension or contract isn't necessarily the reason it's for multiple years is because you're giving him multiple years to get you beyond that. You're not saying, okay, we're paying you all this money, you have to get it done right now in terms of getting us the finals. I think that all of these guys are given a little bit of a grace period based on their age. Yes, Brooklyn's older, but guess what? So would the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
And they won the championship last year. So I just look at
You're
it,
right.
Chase, like to me, you have to kind of see the big picture.
Yeah.
And again, if we're having the same conversation in 2 years, I'm right there with you and saying, yeah, this team needs to get it done now. But
I'll let John speak in a moment. I just feel like getting a player like Donovan Mitchell who fills a need with one of the premier bucket getters in the league shortens that grace period a little bit. Whereas if we didn't have that position,
but I don't think it's this season.
I think I wouldn't be here saying we have the depth, we have the size, we have the talent to compete with the top teams in the East. And when I look at the rosters, I like ours better than 85% of the teams in the East.
Well,
and I'm trying not to be biased.
In support of your point, Chase, they were a top 4 seed last year before all the injuries kicked in, and I don't think they had the talent last year that they have this year. So I'll give you that.
John, help me out, man, or help Sam out.
Away, John.
Someone, yeah.
All right, guys. How you doing, by the way? No. Here's my thought. The Cavs categorize this season, which hasn't even started yet, which will start tomorrow, Wednesday in Toronto, will be a disappointment is if they get stuck in a play-in tournament game. That's massively disappointing.
That would be a huge disappointment, yes.
Massively disappointing. I think playoff experience matters no matter what. Winning and losing in a playoff is massively understated, I think. We talked about it back in like February and March, before these injuries happened, and then even during these injuries, how important it was for them not to get in that play-in tournament game just to give them experience, right? That didn't happen. So you're kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit there. So I think if before you even start thinking of Eastern Conference Finals, which was my point the night that we did an emergency pod on the Donovan Mitchell trade, you can't start thinking that they're going to have, massive jump. It can happen like the Hawks did. Don't get me wrong. It can happen. It's very, very unlikely. It's odds are against them already. So go ahead and think a playoff series, major step in the right direction. That is a successful season. Depending on who they beat or depending on who they play in the second round and how they play, and if they lose, still can be deemed a success. And you know what? Kobe Altman would take that because he pretty much said that to us and everyone else at Media Day. They're not putting a ceiling on the season, but they're also knowing that they're going to know that there's going to be some growing pains, and there will be some growing pains with this season, like there was last year at times.
Sure.
The chemistry looks great now. Everyone gets along great now, but there's going to be some bumps. Eventually, I think it'll pan itself out. And if you're a 4 or 5 seed, that's fantastic. I just think the East is just so loaded with talent and loaded with playoff and championship experience that this team, in theory, or I should say, realistically, take that jump. They won't. I don't want them to, but it's stacked up against them that won't happen this year with this retool roster with Donovan Mitchell.
Look, I think everything you said was true, John. And I think if we didn't make the Donovan Mitchell trade, you'd be saying the same things that you just said. Playoff
No,
experience is
I think
important,
they'd be 6 or 7 without Mitchell.
but
That,
you would
Chase,
still
that's a
be
fair
saying,
point.
but you'd still be saying a playoff, like a play-in game is a disappointment because we were in last year and we would expect Garland and Mobley to make this jump. And they need playoff experience. That's what you'd be saying right now if we didn't trade for Donovan Mitchell. I'm saying that getting Spider accelerates and puts a little more pressure that you need to do more than what we were expecting last year.
But then at the same time, you also got to realize Donovan Mitchell is a fantastic player and I love his game and we are happy
He's not
he's
a project.
there.
He's fully realized.
He's fully, yeah. But you still have Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Isaac Okoro, never played in a playoff game before. That are going to take that next step this year.
Garland, year 3.
Especially Garland and Mobley are going to take a massive step like we all expect them to, which proves your point, Chase, that anything could happen and that they could even go farther. And I hope they do. I just think when you really look at the whole body of work and what they're up against, even with the Donovan Mitchell, a successful season, just because if you bounce out in the second round, is deemed a disappointment because they've already set those standards. The GM of the team and the head coach have already basically said that. So fans, yeah, they want everything to go their way. But the front office already knows what they want in terms of teams a successful season. Donovan Mitchell is great, but I think you need more than just him to get to that point and to really elevate your team that way. Because there's still some holes in this team. You still don't have a wing. Your wing issue in depth is massive. We haven't talked about that yet. Is that going to be Isaac Okoro? I don't think it will. You think, it just, there's just a lot of things here that I think, Chase, you may be overlooking a little bit in this whole grand scheme of what this season could be.
I don't think it matters who plays the 3.
No, I'm just saying in terms of like
I could play the 3 and we'd be fine.
No, but I'm saying in terms of when you're going up against a Boston or a Philly or these upper echelon teams, you're going to need that established player to play in that role. Sam, am I not right?
No, I think you're right. I think you can appreciate and respect the other teams without criticizing the Cavs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, the Miami Heat,
they still got Jimmy Buckets.
They still got Jimmy Buckets. They still have Hero. They still have Adebayo. These guys have all been in situations. Those guys have played for a championship, and you're talking about 3 guys. Donovan Mitchell was a really good player in the Western Conference. He's a 3-time All-Star. There's no doubt. I don't put him in the terms of experience with the Antetokounmpos, the Embiids, those guys in terms of actual playoff experience. But the point is, to me, I would rather they go into the playoffs this year, get in the playoffs, taste it, get a good sample, put in a good fight in the series and lose, and then come back and then take the next logical step next season, then be the Atlanta Hawks and get to the Eastern Conference Finals. And then the year after that, what did they do? Everybody knew about them, and they barely got into the playoffs. They got swept in the first round. I just think for the Cavs, Chase, you just have to respect your opponent.
Sure.
Because there's a ton of talent in the Eastern Conference. Donovan Mitchell is an all-star. He's not a tier 1 all-star. He's not a LeBron. He's not an Antetokounmpo. He's not an Embiid. He's not a Jokic. He's not Curry. He's an all-star, and he's very good, and he should help this team get to another level. But like John said, who else other than Kevin Love on this team has been battle-tested in the postseason? Your core has not been battle-tested together, where these other cores that are very talented and experienced have been. So, I mean, I think that you can look at the Cavs season and say, look, they got beat in the first round of the playoffs, but it's not a disappointment. So it's like saying the Guardians losing to the Yankees is a disappointment. Well, no, it was a great run, a great young team. And look, you expect them to take the next logical step next season. So I don't know that we'll ever win you over, on that thinking, but
Well, I don't know if
we're going to work at it.
I don't know if the Hawks is an appropriate analogy. I think our teams are built entirely different. I think our ceiling is higher than the Hawks. I think the Hawks lucked into the conference finals.
I agree. It is now. Yes. Yes.
And to be honest, I think our ceiling is probably projecting closer to Bucks, Sixers, Celtics, like winning consistency with the core that we have.
I agree with that. I
In,
think the Cavs, a scout said, and I put this on the website, a scout said the other day that they're a notch below those guys. They're a notch below
sure.
I think he said Philadelphia and Milwaukee. So, okay, you're a notch below them. Then that puts you in the running for the third seed. You get the third seed, then yeah, you're going to be disappointed if you lose in the first round. But if other teams' season go as expected, I don't think you can be disappointed because guess what? We're 5, 6, 7, 8 years younger than a lot of those teams.
Yeah. Well,
that's a great point, Sam, real quick, because you bring up the age factor. This team is so young and locked in for the long haul in terms of contract status that even if there was a disappointment of a first or second round bounce, I mean, this team is still loaded for the next, 3, 4, 5 years, not including Mitchell if he leaves when his contract's up, talking Mobley once he gets his max extension, talking about Garland, Allen. And at that point in time, Nets, they're getting older. Yeah. Philly, Milwaukee will probably still be around. Miami, a little bit. Miami's still young. I guess, Jimmy Butler's getting older, but they still got some decent young guys there.
I love Jimmy Buckets. Oh, my gosh.
Well, and I think that's the reason why I think that the reason why they're so loaded in the Eastern Conference that you got to be more realistic in terms of what this young, inexperienced, unproven Cavs team is going to be able to do. Of course, we want them to excel and win and go far, but we got to temper our expectations.
Right. I think if they finish around the 50 win mark, this is presuming they all stay healthy, get into the playoffs and really put up a fight in a first round series. That to me is a successful season and a lot to be excited about. The goal is obviously to get beyond that, but if they can do that, I think that they'll be happy too.
If the Cavs win 50 games, they're going to be a 3 or 4 seed. That's just because of the East and
it could come down to the last day like it did last year.
Yeah.
Chase, remember there was like 5 teams fighting for that number 4 seed on the final day.
Let's see what Vegas says. Vegas has the Cavs over and under at 47.5. Open up at 46.5. It's up a full game. John, you like that number? What do you think, man?
I saw multiple books either had 47.5 or 48. I think I saw someone else at 48.5.
Keeps climbing.
Either way, if it's at 47.5, I'm placing the over on that easily. Health is always a concern for anything when you're doing those future bets, clearly. But I go over that 47.5. And Chase, you are right. If you're at that 50 win mark, you could be a top 3 seed. But it did go down on the wire last year, and if everything goes the way we think it's going to go this year, and everybody stays healthy, it could very well, jockey for position when we head down that last week of the regular season coming into April. So I go over, and I think the win total, I think they hit around 48, 49 wins.
Sam, you over under that 47.5 win total?
My pick on the website was 50 wins.
Woo.
Which last year they would have, if they had gone 50-32, they would have been the 5th seed.
Yep.
The Heat, the Celtics, the Bucks, 76ers, the Raptors were the 5th seed at 48. And the Sixers were 4 at 51 wins. So that's where I'm projecting them. I think it could be a little bit rocky at first. It could be wrong, but I think it could be. I mean, these guys got to get adjusted to playing with each other. They play the first 2 games on the road, then they, pretty soon quickly go out on a West Coast trip. They face the Warriors and the Lakers and all those guys. So it could be kind of slow, but
their first game against the Raptors, they're having the same conversations in Toronto. They love that Toronto team, right? They got a lot of young promise. They're expecting big things in Toronto. So that's not a just opening day snoozer game.
No,
that's kind of see where both of these young, it was rookie versus rookie, Barnes versus Mobley last year. That's kind of see what's going on. That's That's an incredible game to start the season.
I don't think we're talking about Toronto enough and giving them enough credit either.
Sure.
I'm sure not. No.
I would be shocked if 50 wins isn't a number 3 seed. I think there's way more parity in the East, even because it's so talented and stacked. I think the 3 is going to be 50-51 wins.
Well, last year it was 51, so you're probably right.
I like the over. I'm going to hammer the over. I think they're going to be 50-51, 52 wins. I think they're going to. I'm very excited for this Cavs season. If you haven't, caught my drift.
We're excited too, Chase.
I know you are.
Chase thinks that
I think what you're hearing is just a lot of pent up optimism because I haven't been able to share that about the Browns, and I just need to let out some unrealistic. We're going to win it all talk.
Hey, Chase, last year I picked them to finish 28-54 on this very podcast.
Yeah, I saw that in my notes.
And you were I think you were a little bit more optimistic than that. So
always.
Yeah. So
I think I picked like 25 or 6 wins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cavs to win the East. Cavs to win the East at 50-1. 50-1 plus 3,000 plus 275 to win the Central, which you're essentially just no one likes to bet for an injury, but if the Bucks go through a lot of injuries, Cavs plus 275 to win the Central. You guys like that? 50-1. I don't know. I think it's a little tasty.
That is actually a little tasty because if you do, let's say, God forbid, Giannis getting hurt, that trends Milwaukee down drastically.
Yep.
And they're already better probably than Chicago. I'm not probably. They are better than Chicago. Detroit. Indiana. So I would take that. Why not? You can throw some credits down.
Well, I'll tell you this too. It's not just Giannis. Middleton isn't ready to play yet, and he clearly is a big part of that. I mean, you're talking about an all-star. And you lose
Good
an
point.
all-star, that's a big deal. So yeah, I think the Cavs are going to give the Bucks a run. They played very well against them last season.
Yep.
Now you add Mitchell to the mix.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they got a shot to win the Central.
Did the Bucks do enough in the offseason, Sam, in your opinion, to get some help? Because Middleton has had injury issues.
Look, John, when you got Grayson Allen, that's all you need.
And I mean, obviously, if you have Holiday, but the reason you're right, the reason Middleton's such a big deal is because you usually replace him with Pat Connaughton or whatever his name is, and he's not a bad player, but he's not Chris Middleton. And they didn't really add anybody. They're going still with Drew Holiday and Grayson Allen and Middleton and Antetokounmpo. And a big key for them, too, is Lopez coming back and being healthy. Bobby Portis is a nice player. But beyond that, they don't have the depth, in my opinion, that matches the Cavs. They may have the best player in the NBA when Antetokounmpo, but I just don't think the Bucks have the depth.
They got Joe Ingles from Utah in their fire sale. That's a great pickup.
Joe Ingles was a nice pickup in free agency. I don't know. Is he going to be? I don't think he's going to be ready for a little bit because he blew out his knee. He may not come back till like the time Rubio comes back. But yeah, nice pickup for them for sure.
I just feel like the Bucks team is eerily similar to the 07, 08 Cavs teams, with the exception of winning a title. You have a second threat in Middleton. Which, don't get me wrong, those Bucks teams, the Bucks team now is better than those Cavs teams because they've already won a title. And Middleton's better than any other second edition LeBron had in those years.
Now,
my only comparison.
Don't disparage Boobie Gibson's name like that, John. Come on, man.
or Sasha Pavlovich.
Yeah, you just talk easy.
Sasha Pavlovich or
Z Zadrunas. I think Z's better than Middleton. Real talk.
Oh, that's an interesting debate right there.
Not the time.
I got to
Sorry,
do
keep
some digging
interrupting.
on it. Not the time, no. But there just I don't think there's that dependable third option that for Milwaukee that they need. If they're an injury away to Middleton again or Giannis, I don't see Milwaukee being as dominant as they probably had been in the past. I think, what did Vegas have their over under for their win total? Like, was it 50?
52, I think. You check.
So I think the Bucks are still going to be really, really good. I think Giannis is just going to continue to be a force and improve and improve and improve. But you take Giannis out of the equation, they're beyond beatable. And I like Middleton's game. I just think he's just not dependable enough. So you talk about that bet and you put money down on the Cavs winning the division. That could be a decent, smart bet if something goes their way. Well, hopefully not for Milwaukee's case, but
yeah, I can't find it real quick, but here's what I can find. Probably don't take our advice on betting stuff. That's what probably one thing I can find real quick. But we're going to take a break.
That's also true.
Yeah, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to do a segment called How Does This End? We've played it before. It's a lot of fun. John, Sam, stick around and we'll be right back. Cavs on the break. Hey, this is Chase Smith, and I'm here to tell you about our wonderful longtime friends over at Aligned Health Center. Did you know Aligned Health Center is the first and only chiropractic biophysics clinic in Northern Ohio? There is no other chiropractic clinic in the area that does what Aligned Health Center does. Let me tell you all about them. And I should know, I just went to them last month and they were incredible. From the welcome staff to the technicians and the doctors, it was an incredible experience, and I know you're going to enjoy your time there. Chiropractic biophysics is a technique that actually reshapes the spine and restores it to its original correct position. At most chiropractors you go in, you just get an adjustment and you're left with that short-term relief, but it's not actually fixing the underlying structural issues. But at Aligned Health Center, they actually aim to correct the structural issues and provide long-term relief to their patients. I'm talking about back pain, neck pain, migraines, ADHD, digestive issues, sleep disturbance, whiplash, scoliosis, and knee pain. Yes, that's right. They can even help correct lifelong knee pain. And it gets better. They're opening a huge, brand new state-of-the-art facility in Westlake. It's going to look so nice. I saw the floor plans. It looks incredible. You're going to love it. And in addition to chiropractic biophysics, they also offer regenerative medicine, which is a way to help rebuild cartilage in various joints and help reduce pain in places like knees, shoulders, wrist, and even your lower back. You can check them out online at alignedhealthcenters.com. That's Aligned Health Centers with an S, alignedhealthcenters.com, or call at 440-385-7357. Again, that's 440-385-7357 to schedule your exam. We will put the website and the phone number in the show notes of this episode.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
What's up, everyone? I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Tybus Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need to get you through the regular season, hopeful postseason, and I'd say off-season, Tybus, but is there really ever an off-season for this team?
Thankfully for our podcast, Holly, there really never is when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. Don't miss our breakdown of each week's matchup, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we know, Holly, dogs gotta eat.
Yes, they do. So hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of the Orange is Oranger, Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
The R&R podcast going to be rocking and rolling with you because football season is underway. College, Ohio State, the Power Fives, the MAC, the Browns. Michael Regai, are you ready to rock and roll with some football?
Kenny, I've been ready. This is our time of year. This is what R&R is all about. We're going to be with you every week. Kenny just said it, Browns, NFL, Ohio State centric. So you got to stay with us all fall and winter long here on R&R.
That's right. The Reg Eye and Rhoda podcast coming to you here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Subscribe now and don't miss a show.
Hey everybody, I'm Gary. And I'm Jason. Opening cards as a kid, no matter what was in the pack, you always had that stick of chewing gum. Well, it turns out Gary and I opened up a box of 86 Tops last year, and let me tell you, the chewing gum does not age well.
Join us on the Ball Card Show,
the sports podcast for the sports collector.
Hey, we are back. Cavs on the Break NBA podcasts. I'm here with Sam Amico, John Sable. We're doing a Cavs preview pod, and that got a little feisty in the first part. That got a little feisty. I felt like I had to put up my dukes a little bit. You guys ganged up on me. I know how I feel about it. I'm just trying to say Cavs are going to go far.
I just tried to be, offer some perspective to your Tasmanian devil-like excitement.
Hey,
but I'm glad, Chase, look, I don't want to discourage you from being that excited. I think that there's a big reason for that. I just don't think that you're allowed to feel however you like, obviously. You don't need, but I don't want to see you disappointed if they don't reach these finals, because I don't think that's the only measuring stick for a successful season for a team that hasn't been to the playoffs with their core.
All I was trying to say was, you trade for Donovan Mitchell, you better get out of the first round. That's all I'm saying. I want to move on. I'll play this game.
Okay. Yeah.
That's fair.
I don't share that opinion, but I love you to death anyway. So there's no ganging up. Maybe Sable is ganging up on you. I'm with you through and through.
All right. This segment is called How Does This End? I'm going to give you whether a name, a scenario, or some other situation. You have to tell me how this ends. All right. How this ends this season. John Sable, I'll start with you. Karis LeVert. How does Karis LeVert? How does this end for the Cavs this season? Karis LeVert on the Cavs.
Ooh, that is a great question, Chase. It can either go one of two ways, in my opinion. One, he comes off the bench, or he is that fifth player in that starting rotation and finally finds his niche and he's healthy and excels. Well, actually three scenarios. Or two, he gets hurt again. Or three, trade is expiring contract at the deadline. I don't think that's going to happen. I think usage that JB Bickerstaff and company are going to use with him are going to be able to work to his strengths now that he's 100% healthy. And if he stays healthy, I think he accepts a role of being that, sixth man off the bench, or as being that fifth guy in the rotation. And I think he's a guy that will pay off with that trade last year, and we're going to see the full potential of Karis LeVert. I think you're going to see him now finally comfortable in his role in the system, and I think you'll see chemistry build up a little bit better with him and maybe Darius Garland, as well as Ricky Rubio when he gets back sometime, hopefully in January, and of course with Donovan Mitchell. On the flip side, you don't know what his value would be in a trade. It's not going to be very much, at least right now. I don't think, Sam, that they would trade him when he's playing really, really well. They're going great to capitalize on his value. If the ship isn't, if it's not broken, don't try to fix it. So I think he excels. I think he stays healthy for the first time in his career because injuries issues have been the concern with him. And when they traded for him last year, he sprained his ankle the first day back from the All-Star break in practice, and was never the same guy. And even before that, he was never the same guy with that trade from Indiana, because he didn't really know. He's trying to fit in with the team and trying to fit in their roles. JB didn't know how to utilize him, trying to work with rotations. And, we never really saw the full potential. I think now getting a full off season and a preseason in this system, I think if he stays healthy, you'll see it.
Yeah. Sam, what are your thoughts? Karis LeVert, how does this end?
Well, he's looked great in training camp in the preseason. And I'll tell you this, people are always talking about, are there enough basketballs for him to start or whatever? The person who wins that starting small forward job is going to be the person who defends the best. It's not going to come down to offense. And Karis LeVert knows that. And Karis LeVert went out and guarded James Harden in the preseason game in Cleveland. He went out, he took on all the tough assignments, and JB Bickerstaff said, look, we've asked him to facilitate more. We want him to be kind of that point forward facilitator. And he really has done that in camp. He really did it against Sixers. I was never more impressed with him in Cleveland than I was, obviously, preseason game, but just his approach to that game, going out, finding the open guy, threw some really nice passes. And he's a guy who's capable of erupting for 40 points, as he did in this final game with the Pacers. So I do think, to answer the question, how's this end? I think Karis LeVert is here for another. He gets a new deal from the Cavs because he knows this is a great opportunity for him to be on a team that's going to contend here for the next 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah, here's how I think it ends. I think he leads our second unit, and I think he might start a couple games at the 3, but I think he's going to be the primary focus of our second unit, because when you get to playoff basketball, you need players who get buckets. You need people who can put the ball in the hoop, and Karis gets buckets. Karis can score the ball, can make his own shot. It didn't work at the play-in game. Like, he had a hard time, couple hard games then, but I think new place, new team. How does this end? I think he leads our second unit, and I think
which could be a great possibility for the reasons you mentioned, Chase. If you might need scoring off your bench, and if so, he could kind of be like your Jamal Crawford type of player, in the running for Sixth Man of the Year. So yeah, I mean that would be a great role for him as well.
All right,
and not only that, guys, real quick, Chase, piggybacking on that, he's the type of guy that he can create his own shot and he can be a force. His defense has always been a question mark for him. But to Sam's point, he's up for the challenge. He finally is in a situation, in a role with the team that he wants to be. He's playing in his home state. He likes the organization. He likes JB. He likes his teammates. He's a good locker room guy. And so you add all that up, he's going to go out of his comfort zone to benefit himself, but also by benefiting himself, he's helping the team in the long run. And so I don't think he doesn't get credit for that.
Well, Sam, I'm going to throw to you. Sam, how does this end? Kevin Love.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. I just see John Sable in our screen on our Zoom call, and all I see is an eye because he's like working on his house. So in the panel, all you see is his eye while he's talking. For Kevin Love, I think this is his final year in Cleveland. I just think that, and that's not a negative. That's not intended to be a negative. I think that he's going to continue to be, if he stays healthy like he did last season and shock the world, he's comfortable coming off the bench. You heard him Chase at Media Day. He said he enjoys that role. I think that, I think he's in line for another one of those seasons where he can be the veteran guy who leads the second unit. If LeVert comes off the bench, if not, Love and Okoro and Rubio when he's healthy. Expiring contract. I think Kevin Love's in line for a pretty good year. But I'd be surprised if he's back beyond this season, only because this is a team that's young and, they're going to want to go get more youth, and they're not going to want to pay Kevin probably what a team like, say, maybe the Lakers or Warriors or somebody who's more advanced and older. And I think he might be ready to move on at the end of the year. He's not now, but I think that's how it ends. But I think before that, the Cavs will still get plenty out of Kevin Love until that point, till his contract expires at the end of the season.
John, Darius Garland, how does this end? Darius Garland.
Darius Garland will get an all-star spot. He will jump into a top 2 or 3 point guard in the league. I'm talking individual status first. You're going to see him take that next big step. Everyone talks about Evan Mobley. I think Darius Garland's a guy that's going to take a major step this year. This is his team now. And there was some question last year, was it his team or Colin Sexton's team? This is Darius Garland's team. He is adapted to the city, loves it here, has said it multiple times, and he is going to be, you'll see a bigger leadership role from him this year. And you're going to see his numbers improve as well. And you're going to see his defense improve. And with all that being said, I mean, you're going to see this Cavs team surprise some people in some of these bigger games against some, upper echelon teams led by Darius Garland. People that outside of Cleveland or casual NBA fans that don't know about him, by the end of the season, will be talking about Darius Garland.
Chris Paul in year 2 averaged 17 points and 8.9 assists, pretty much 9 assists with almost 2 steals a game. Is that out of reach, Sam?
No, for Darius Garland?
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Year 3, he made the jump, 21 points, 11 and a half assists a game, and almost 3 steals a game. So it's a pretty large jump year 2 to year 3. Can Garland get to 21 and 11?
Yeah, I mean, with the talent around him, yes. I mean, he's probably going to get a lot of assists. He's going to, I mean, Chase, you have to look at it. He's got Mitchell next to him now. That immediately takes the pressure. Well, I don't want to say pressure off of him. It immediately takes some of the defensive double teaming and being more physical with him, because he's going to have a lot more room to operate this season. So I suspect he's going to, it's really not so much about the numbers, as Jeff Van Gundy always says. Are they winning numbers? Steph Marbury had great numbers too, but never won anything. I think Garland may not have as great a numbers maybe as Chris Paul, but at least, by comparison in year 3 and 4, but I think that he can have a similar impact on his team, and that's what matters. So yeah, he certainly could approach those numbers with the players you consider that are around him.
Yeah, he had last year Garland averaged 21.7 points and 8.6 assists per game. So Cavs are banking on that assist number going up and keeping kind of that same production. Obviously Chris Paul's a little better on defense, at least statistically. So we'll see. All right. Evan Mobley, Sam, how does this end?
Well, I think it ends extremely well. Even if he doesn't get better from last season, I was playing basketball with one of the guys the other day, one of my buddies, and he said, what, I'm worried that Mobley's not, what if he doesn't get any better? And I'm like, who cares? That was still darn good, I mean, he probably deserved an all-star spot the way he played when he was healthy. He did hit a little bit of a rookie wall there, which, assuming he avoids that year 2, the sky's the limit for him. And I really think that he will improve. I think that he will. I think he's very motivated because he did not win Rookie of the Year. I think it's pretty clear that has motivated him. A lot of people kind of behind the scenes have said he's not an emotional guy. He's kind of like Nick Chubb in the sense that he does not really show his emotions very often, but that got it Mobley a little bit, not winning that Rookie of the Year. So I really think that he could be guys, and maybe I'm nuts, but I think that he could end up being the best player out of this current core, even better than Mitchell, more impactful than Mitchell in the long term, because to me, he did not play like a rookie last season.
Yeah, I don't think you're nuts.
Mature beyond his years.
I don't think you're nuts for that reason, Sam.
Yeah, I agree, Sam. Yeah,
Chase,
you're nuts for other
Chase
reasons.
Is fiery tonight.
Agree. Yeah, Chase, you are a little feister tonight. I love it. Let's go.
If I had known this would have been the result, I would have said the Cavs weren't making the playoffs. Then we would have had Chase the whole year fired.
I wouldn't have to come after you. The whole Twitter world would come after you for that one, Sam. I wouldn't even have to do anything. I would cut that in. I would cut that part out and make it at like an audio voice of just you with your face, the Cavs, and then you would get a whole bunch of crap. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I'd become even more of a meme than I am now.
Your phone would blow up with all sorts of people texting you, wondering why you're doing that. John, Evan Mobley, best player on the Cavs into the season.
Ooh, good question. I will say yes. I think Evan Mobley will get his. I think Evan Mobley will get his first All-Star nod. Should have got it last year. NBA doesn't like giving All-Star nods to rookies. Stupid rule. I guess the rule is the unwritten rule is if you're not going to give it to LeBron James in his rookie year to an All-Star nod, you shouldn't give it to anybody. And I get that. I think Evan Mobley's game is going to be a lot different in this, or I shouldn't say different. I would say more polished. You're going to see him shoot a lot more. I think you're going to see him be a little bit more aggressive too underneath. We already kind of touched on his size, how much different he looks. And I think you're going to see him show off that side of the skill set that we got glimpses of last year with his perimeter shooting. They've been working on with him with that. And by the end of the season, you're going to see him be the completely different player versus a Mitchell or a Garland. And that's a good thing. It's not a knock on those two guys. I just think you're going to see we have never seen a player that size, Cavaliers uniform with this type of talent before. And you're going to see it on a new level this season.
I agree with everything you just said, John. And I think the sky is truly the limit. I wish Evan Mobley was on my fantasy basketball team. He is not. That's how much I believe in Evan Mobley. Not enough to spend all the money to get him because I spent all my money on Giannis and Devin Booker. But I think Mobley's is going to have just an incredible year. All right, so it's all leading up to this. How does this end the Cavs season? Parade down Euclid, anybody? Because that's what I'm saying. Let's go.
Chase, if it happens, I'll be your wingman.
If it happens, I'm going to be in that parade.
Yeah. Well,
Sam says, yeah, you'll be in a cop car. You'll be in a different parade. You'll be in a cop car.
Yeah.
I think how the season ends, the Cavs probably get about, late upper 40s, low 50s win total. I think they're going to go on like a solid win streak at some point. And then you're going to go to the playoffs. You're going to win the first round pretty convincingly. And then I think that second round, you're going to get a team like Milwaukee or Brooklyn that's really going to test them. And then they're going to go to the distance, go all seven, and then unfortunately fall in the second round. That's how I think it could go. Certainly, they can get real hot and shock a lot of people in the postseason. I would love for that to happen. I'm more of a realistic fan when it comes to the Cavs and what we have seen in trends in the NBA and seeing how teams operate. But if that happens, if my prediction happens, that's still a success. Anything less than a first-round playoff series win, in my opinion, is a failure.
That's what I was saying to the first half of the show.
Disagree.
But
that's exactly what I said.
Chase,
if you don't get out of the first round, it's a failure. That's exactly what I said.
What I'm saying is you got to get into the second round. I mean, you're basically – did you not say that – I thought they would go to the second round, right? But you're also saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, you want them to go to the Eastern Conference Finals, and that is also a failure. That's not realistic.
I think they could be fighting for the Eastern Conference. Like I think they
could. The look in your eyes.
I think they could be fighting for the Eastern Conference Finals championship. And then I said, if they don't make it out of the first round, it's a failure. Trading for Donovan Mitchell. I think I convinced him, Sam.
Yeah, I think you've brainwashed him.
He got lost in the earrings.
You got to get
he couldn't think straight.
I think tomorrow he'll show up with your haircut.
Gotta have. Is that the buzz, or Sam, or is that going to be the bleach blonde hair?
John Sable coming to you live, Channel 8 with the bleach blonde hair.
I don't think they would put me on TV with that. But hey, go change that. Go dye it back.
Oh my gosh.
You're no Chase Smith is what they would say.
Well, I can tell you how this podcast is going to end. It's going to end wonderfully because you guys are the best. This was a great show. I have to say I feel like you're going to listen to this and they're going to say, man, those guys are really wanting to talk Cavs basketball.
Yeah. Could have done it for another couple hours, at least, maybe another week.
Or at least until John finished hanging up things in his basement. I don't know, man.
I tried to get a picture of John
building shelves,
John's
hanging
one
things.
eye talking into the camera, but it would have been great to tweet out on Halloween.
Oh man!
But I missed it.
It would be great, yeah.
But now he's under the stairs.
It's all about the multitasking.
What he doesn't know is I'm secretly mapping out his home, and I'm going to scare him on Halloween night. I'm just going to do all sorts of stuff.
You want my list of hobbies?
We can plan that.
Do you want my list of hobbies, interests, and fears too?
Yeah.
Well, that does it for this episode of Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Thank you all so much for downloading and listening. Shouts to the Press Play Podcast Network for making this possible. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Cavs on the Break. We always follow back. Shouts to our sponsor, Aligned Health Center. Love those people. If you have neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, knee pain, go check them out at AlignedHealthCenters.com. That'll be in the show notes. You can follow Sam on Twitter at Amico Hoops. Catch all of his works and writings at hoopswire.com, at Wire Hoops on Twitter. You can follow John on Twitter at John_Sable. And I got to say, John, for all the work you've done, I'm going to give you the Junkyard Dog Award for this episode, man. You were just multitasking. You were talking. You were throwing out awesome zingers and stats, and you were fixing your house. So I don't know about you, Sam, but I'm giving the Junkyard Dog Award to Mr. John Sable tonight.
I would be happy. I mean, yeah, that is what a junkyard dog does.
That is,
he does
he's got that dog in him.
While hanging pictures with a drill in his basement, and nobody would know if we didn't tell him. So very impressive.
And shelves. And shelves, guys. Don't forget the shelves that I was hanging too.
Oh, the shelves. My gosh.
I will wear this. I will wear this Press Play Podcast Cavs on the Break Junkyard Dog chain with proud and flaunt it around my house.
Yeah, we got to get one of those for our next live show.
My dog might like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I knew I had him going whenever he would like put the drill down and look at the phone. There was a couple times in the show I would say stuff and he would just like stop working and look at the phone. Like, Chase, what is you talking about, dude? And I knew we got him then. Well, John, is this episode?
You did, because I went back and I looked at one of my measurements and it was off. And I think it was when you were talking about I don't know, your earrings or something. I don't know.
All right. Well, Sam, the final thoughts, my man.
No, I'm just gonna go as we record this on Tuesday night, NBA opening night. I'm gonna go watch the Lakers and the Warriors for the end of that game, and clearly two teams that wish they were the Cleveland Cavaliers.
That is the truth. That is the truth. Well, here's one wish that we have granted. This year, we're going to be coming at you every single week with a new episode, and we cannot wait. John, Sam, thank you so much. You guys are the best.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.
It was fun, boys. We'll do it again soon.
All right, Mike Breen, take us out.
Congratulations, Cleveland. Your decades-long wait is finally over. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.